Okay, welcome back to the latest installment of Ask Eddie and Ann. Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Uh, all things considered, doing okay. I'm gonna deviate from the norm a little bit here and just remind people that we actually record our discussions in advance of when they go up on Facebook. So while we're recording this, we are at the tail end of one of the most momentous weeks in America, not just our lifetime, but in American history. And we're still all trying to make sense of that. And I just apologize in advance if we don't hit the exact right tone, because who knows what's going to be happening when this actually airs on Facebook, right?
I'm trying not to
Facebook may be down. Facebook may be completely shut down. Who knows? It's unprecedented times. And like I mentioned to you just a moment ago, I think we can do our duty to the national cause by giving people a diversion. So let's do that. Let's talk about noir, the pessimistic, fatalistic, doom-laden, and largely fictitious world of film noir.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, I have seen a few of these questions in advance, and there's some good stuff in here. So let's give it a go. Oh, I see. Is that Charlotte?
Yes, it is Charlotte.
I just see Charlotte's nose. She's just making a little, a brief appearance with her nose. Very nice. I'm sure we'll see more of her as this goes on.
You will, and she's just feeling really like she needs to cuddle next to me, so that's what she's doing.
That's good. One of these days, I will convince Tizzy to come and participate, but don't hold your breath.
I know, but I want to see her. Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go. Okay, so this first is a two-parter from Jessica Cron. I am curious how the online 2021 NOIR City will go. Will cities still host their own slightly varied lineups, or will there just be one main festival to tune into? I'm looking forward to the 2021 films and have outfits to match, even if to dress up in the living room.
Yeah, perfect. That's fantastic. Okay, we're working on this now. And although I can't say anything absolutely definitive at this point, this is the plan. The plan is to have a few online festivals during the course of the year and or the rest of this pandemic, right? Until we feel it is absolutely safe to go back to theaters. It doesn't really make that much sense for us to do an online version of every festival that we normally do, because it'd be too many and compacted. So we're going to do 3 to 4 festivals. That's the expectation over the course of the next 12 months. My strategy is to get all of our partner venues participating so that people who are used to, say, the Alamo Drafthouse being their venue, or AFI, or the Music Box in Chicago, or the Egyptian Theater in, hold on, I have a phone call coming in my ear that I'm declining. We want them all to be partners with us and have outreach to their normal membership and the people who normally come to our festivals in those regions. But we're going to try to do, as I say, 3 to 4 festivals revolving around a common theme, but not necessarily repeating the same films in every festival. So I guess what I'm saying is it would be, let's just say, a 40 film festival in multiple chapters.
Right.
Or multiple installments online. So that's what we're going for right now. We are in the process of trying to put the I won't say the first one because we already did one that was very successful with the AFI in Silver Spring. But we're trying to put it together, and it's we'll see how that works out, because it's, you know, it's the brave new world of streaming, and it was my antenna is telling me it was a lot easier to deal with international films in this format than it will be to deal with Hollywood films in this format for various reasons.
Yeah, but do you think you'll do some more international films this time around as well? Because it seems like we got a good response to those.
My expectation at this point is that we will do an online international noir film festival every year.
Yeah.
Pandemic or not.
Yeah.
I think it's the reaction was so good that I think that's a really good idea, and a way to expose people to a lot of films they wouldn't have an opportunity to see otherwise.
Yeah, and I just know, because, you know, our international film festivals have been my favorite of all our festivals, and I get a lot of those comments back from people as well that feel the same way. So I'm really excited that we'll be continuing to do it, because I think it's also because it's just fun to see how other nationalities handle the material, and what they can and can't do also in that time period is really interesting. Because I mean, and just really small things like in the first international festival, oh God, it was the one with the woman who was also like a Afro-Cuban dancer.
Nino in Sevilla, yeah.
Yeah.
Víctimas del Pecado.
Yeah, which was a great film, but there was just like this scene where she was dancing with a black man in this, and when that scene came out, the first thing I thought is there's no way you would have seen that in an American film in that time.
No, and that scene is so incredibly sexy.
Yeah.
And she is so fantastic. And it's just like in the festival we just showed, you know, when we showed Razia with Jean Gabin and Lino Ventura, there are scenes in that film that you would never see in a Hollywood film of that era, in terms of the sex and the drugs and all this stuff. It's great. It's really great.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but it's really interesting because you really see the difference in cultures, and you know, especially sort of, yeah. Anyway,
and also I have to say, Anne, I think that what I got out of the reaction to this last international festival online is there's a real thrill of discovery with the films that I'm not going to say you don't get that with the Hollywood noir. Of course, the hardcore fans have seen it all, so they're just arguing about which film is better than that film, and is this, you know, is this Nick Ray's best film, or where does it stand in his oeuvre, and all this kind of stuff. And younger people are excited because they're discovering these films for the first time. But the veteran noir fans, you know, they're just revisiting it because they love it so much, which is great.
Yeah.
But with the international films, there's much more opportunity for revelatory discoveries, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, because in this year's, or last year's festival, like my favorite film of the festival was Ashes and Diamonds, which I had never seen. And I was so grateful to have seen that in a theater for the first time. But I loved that film so much. And it was just such a pleasure to watch something that I hadn't seen before, you know, and that I just thought was incredible.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece. And I will just say that I'll take advantage of your saying that to say that is one of the great things about my deploying a somewhat elastic definition of noir.
Yeah.
Is not too many people are going to show that movie as part of a film noir festival. But the reason you do it is because there's a lot of people who want to see a film noir festival who are probably never going to go see Ashes and Diamonds at an art house that's showing a Polish film festival. You know, I'm just, it's true. So it's a great way to expose people to great films and open them up to other cultures and history too, because that film has a lot to say about contemporary times as well as the immediate post World War II period. So,
okay, I'm sorry. Full disclosure: when I was in high school, we were sort of. This is when I was in London, and we had these things where we'd have like a 3-day little intensive of something. You could pick whatever you wanted, and I did the film one, the Dr. Wyatt, who is great. He was my first film teacher, you know, and one of the films he showed was Ashes and Diamonds. And the reason why I didn't watch at the time is me and my friend Greg Scalacci went out and got stoned.
thank you for the full disclosure.
I'm sorry. I was like, started to think about it, and that's why I started giggling, and, you know, anyway. Okay, so Jessica's second question.
I'm not going to ask later on. I want to know, you went to high school in London?
Yeah, I went to the American school in London for all 4 years of high school.
Oh, I never knew that. That's fantastic. Okay, we're going to talk about that later. Or
Okay.
you're going to get a lot of mail from people asking you about that. So, okay.
Okay. And this one from my mom, Suzanne. What other films do you enjoy watching? Your second favorite genre after noir?
I don't actually have one. I like, what appeals to me is stories that are really told in creative ways. So I tend, when I look for things to watch, like if I'm tooling around on, you know, I'm going to watch Netflix or something, I'm really just looking for some hint that the film is done in some different creative way.
Yeah.
That's what appeals to me most. I don't go to, you know, I don't subscribe to any of the algorithms that these streaming services provide. If you like this, you'll like that. It's like, no, actually, you're wrong. You don't actually know me because of the choices that I make on your service. Don't be so stupid. But you know, lately I've just been watching a lot of different things. For example, I saw this film, Dick Johnson is Dead, which I absolutely loved because it's just so completely unusual. Have you seen or heard about this?
No.
Okay, it's impossible to describe what this film is. It's not a documentary. It's a fantasy documentary made by a woman filmmaker who's actually a cinematographer, who made a movie about the death of her father, about his kind of descent into Alzheimer's and all this. But she did it in such an unbelievably creative way where she actually stages his death multiple times in the course of the movie. And it's shocking and it's funny and it's like nothing I've seen before. It was really, really beautiful. And as somebody who has had a parent who went through all of that, I could relate to every second of it. But it was my experience presented in a totally fresh and unexpected way that it was absolutely a revelation. I loved that film. So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I look for. And by the way, I also started watching Better Call Saul.
Yay!
And it's, you know, come on, Bob Odenkirk, it's just the greatest. So, yeah, it's as advertised, as good as advertised. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm really happy to hear that. Okay, this one's from Sharon. I love noir and have been subscribing to NOIR City magazine for the past few years. Thank you. I was excited about the online festival, but disappointed to discover that it's only available in the US. Will the festival ever be extended into Canada or outside the US domain?
Here's the thing, Sharon. I wish I could give you a definitive answer for that. It would be my druthers if the festival was available worldwide. that decision is made by the owners of the films that we stream, because you can only make a deal for certain territories because they sell the rights to the films in different ways. So this is something I encounter a lot with the TCM show with Noir Alley, because every week, no matter what I show, I look on social media to see if people enjoyed it. And every fifth comment is, I wish I could have seen it, but it's not available in Canada. I wish I could have seen it, but it's not available on this platform. And, I don't like it when people say, come on, Eddie, get with it, because it is not my decision as to how these things break out. And honestly, we'll see how this goes, because as we start preparing for the next online festival, I mean, this is one of the things that we have to look at. So if we want to show a movie and the rights holder says, yeah, you can only stream this in the United States, you can't stream it in Canada or anywhere else, will I take that into consideration? Because I honestly don't know how many people are watching in Canada. I just don't know. So I mean, my allegiance right out of the gate is to the people that I believe are our loyal folks who have come year after year to the festivals in the United States, in the various cities. And if I know we can get it for the US market, I'm going to get it. And that's just how it works. Sometimes the license is for the United States. Sometimes the license is for North America. Sometimes the license is worldwide. With the international festival, the issue was simply that these films were owned by companies that they're trying to maximize their return on films that aren't going to make them a tremendous amount of money in the first place, right? So if you don't limit the market, if you don't go market by market and say, I'm selling it in Europe, I'm selling it in the US, I'm selling it in South America, if you just sell it worldwide, you're giving it away. You're essentially giving the film away, right? Because then everybody can watch it at the same time, and you can't double or triple the money that you've you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's what that's about.
And this one's from Jessica. I was curious what the NOIR City Christmas film would have been. I hope to take the train down again, but maybe next year. Then I will have time to work on a narrow margin style outfit.
Okay, so this is Jessica Cron again, because she has submitted a lot of questions. Probably the Christmas film would have been Cover Up, because now there's a good digital version of that film, and I probably would have shown that. I'm really looking forward to I, the Jury at some point, which is set at Christmas. It was always my goal. I was shooting for I, the Jury at the Castro in 3D.
Yeah.
As a Christmas show. That would have been, well, I say it would have been this year's Christmas show at the Castro, but for the pandemic, because not only did it screw up the workflow at UCLA so that restoration is not done, but obviously we can't get into the theater. So we'll see. I mean, at some point, I, the Jury would be great, but what's the point of showing it online if you can't show it in 3D?
Right.
So I would rather wait for an opportunity to show it in 3D.
And this one's from Jerry. Can you give us an update on any upcoming restorations that you are working on that will be available on Blu-ray? Hoping for a special edition of The Bitter Stems.
That will happen. It's funny. I just was talking with Jeff Messino at Flicker Alley today. We have a lot of stuff in the pipeline, and The Bitter Stems, aka Los Tallos Amargos, is one of those films, as is La Bestia debe morir, The Beast Must Die, Those are the two Argentine films that we're going to put out in 2021. We're looking to put out repeat performance, and I would very much like to put out The Guilty and High Tide, which are two of the B films that we've restored, and we're going to figure out whether we want to do that as a single disc or as each film separately.
Yeah.
Because they're short, and I'm thinking that it might make sense to put them both on one disc. They're both directed by John Reinhardt, so it would be like a John Reinhardt package, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the works. It's just been this pandemic has screwed up everything.
Yeah.
And there's advantages and disadvantages, and we like to really do fun, nice, very polished special features, but now everybody just has to shoot stuff from home like this, and so it was always a question of just kind of, is this going to break? Is this going to stop? Are we going to ever get back to normal? But now I think people have seen so much of this that they get it. And so it's like, let's not wait around anymore. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
This is how we'll do the special features, and we'll figure it. I've been doing Noir Alley for 8 months from home,
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do.
Okay. And this is from Doug Roberts. Any news regarding new Film Noir Foundation restorations for 2021? I remember you saying one of your TCM Noir Alley comments that Flicker Alley was next working on a release of repeat performance. Is that still true? And is anything in the pipeline now? Sorry.
Just answered it.
Yeah. Okay. So that way, Doug.
But we do, and I think I mentioned this on previous episodes, and I hope the folks who watch them all, and we love you for that, bear with us when we repeat things, because some people are just coming on board now. But yeah, we're restoring this picture of the Argyle Secrets, and everything is out of whack because of the pandemic. It's just not really that easy to get people to show up for work at these places. I would think, and I'm only joking here, so if somebody is watching from one of our fabulous partners who actually do this work, it's like, I would think that a lab where you do this kind of work would be one of the great sanitary, germ-free environments imaginable. So I'd want to be there doing this work during the pandemic. But I guess it's the getting to and from work that is problematic. And I shouldn't even joke about this, because, as you know, what's going on in LA right now is beyond the pale. There's nothing funny about it whatsoever. So I retract that feeble attempt at humor, because it's deadly serious. So anyway.
Yeah. And this is from Steve. In addition to restoring complete films, would the Film Noir Foundation ever try to find the original endings for films, like the original ending of Tomorrow's Another Day, or an alternative filmed version like with Laura, or the missing Martha Vickers scenes from The Big Sleep?
Wouldn't that be fun? That would be like the holy grail. People are always saying, what's the film now that you really want to find, now that you found, Too Late for Tears and Woman on the Run and all this. It would be those pieces, those legendary pieces that have gone missing. The odds of that are virtually nil. The time to have done that would have been 20 or 30 years ago. I just, I don't want to be a downer saying this, but it's hard enough to get studios to respect the complete films that they own. Expecting them to care about the stuff that was cut out of the films is it's a dream. It's a bit of a pipe dream. When I first started doing this, there was a wonderful guy named Barry Allen who worked at Paramount. He was the archivist at Paramount. And the very first time I ever sat down and had lunch with Barry Allen, he jokingly said, "Before you even ask, Eddie, I'm going to tell you, we don't have the original ending of Double Indemnity." Trust me, I've been looking for it for 20 years and it's not here, So, I know what this person is asking, but that's just not going to happen. I don't think there's any way that they actually categorized this stuff so that you could even find it if you were looking for it. If it got cut out of the movie, ask any filmmaker who's shot a film and then brought it in for a landing and they get their their negative cut and everything, and then say, "Oh, I want to go back and find this piece of film." It's just not going to happen. Yeah. I hate to say that. I'd like to think there's everything is perfectly organized, but it really isn't. So I'd love to be proven wrong on that, but I don't think it's going to happen.
And this one's from Ned Carey. You have mentioned an upcoming restoration of I, the Jury. Could you please add more info about the title? Also, will The Long Wait be coming as part of that restoration package?
Okay. I don't really have that much more to add about I, the Jury, except that it will happen. It's not really a Film Noir Foundation project. It's something that UCLA took upon themselves, and we did not get involved. I have no sense that The Long Wait is part of this. There is no package. Their Victor Saville is the producer of all these films because he bought the rights to all the Mickey Spillane books back in the day. So he made all of them, but they're not all the same studios. They're not all the same thing. And I do know for a fact that a lot of the funding for the restoration of I, the Jury came from Biff Elliott's widow, right? He plays Mike Hammer in the movie, and she put up a lot of the money. And, Biff Elliott is not the star of The Long Wait. Anthony Quinn is the star of The Long Wait. And, there's no money there. But I don't know that The Long Wait actually needs restoration because I've shown it. I know that a good print exists of that film. So whether somebody's going to buy it to put it out on Blu-ray, they should. I mean, that would be a good thing. I mean, if anybody is watching that, is with Kino or Criterion or something, I mean, you can sell The Long Wait because it's very perverted. It's very sexy. There's a lot of bondage and discipline stuff in that movie with Peggy Castle. I mean, you can get promo art for, you can get incredibly incorrect promo art, up the wazoo on that movie. That is just weird film, but classic Mickey Spillane, and somebody should put that out. Yeah. I don't know. I'm more secure saying that I, the Jury, will be coming out than The Long Wait.
And this one's from Arnold Hawk. Is there restoration of D.O.A. in the near future?
These people think I'm the sage. I'm the oracle of the restorations. I don't really know. And I think that's the kind of thing that I would love to see Criterion put that out. I would not want to be involved in necessarily in that project for various reasons. I think that Peter Becker at Criterion could do a fabulous job with D.O.A., which is a D.O.A. is like one of those major noir titles. It's a film that's been remade. So I think that even if people haven't seen the original, some kind of bell goes off in their head when they hear D.O.A. And you know, the last digital version of that film that was out wasn't really that bad.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that when we showed that film, we asked for a 35 millimeter print of it, and what we got was so bad that we had to show the DVD because the print wouldn't even go through the projector. And it wasn't horrible. You know, and you think it's a test to show a film on your 48-inch TV screen?
Yeah.
Try showing it on a 40-foot movie screen,
Yeah.
and it held up okay. So I can't say that that's a bad copy of the film. So that's what I have on that one.
Okay. This one's from George O'Connell. Am I the only one that noticed in the film Detour, which you recently aired on NOIR Alley, that in the early hitchhiking scenes, the cars were right-hand drive and the traffic was going in the opposite direction? I don't recall that ever being the case here. When Haskell picked them up, things were the American way. I figured since low budget, et cetera, but maybe they had some old footage of an English film.
Oh, that's classic. Okay, I gotta level with you, Ann. That's the best one on that subject. That's the best letter on that subject. I probably got 20 emails when I showed Detour on NOIR Alley. I did. I got 20 emails about this very subject, right? And everybody thought they were the first ones to notice that he was on the wrong side of the road when he's hitchhiking, and the cars are on the wrong side of the road. And everybody had a theory about why this was, right? Like somebody was asleep at the switch when there was, and I don't mean to, I'm not mocking the people who are questioning this, right? I mean, it is very noticeable. Yeah. And I appreciate that people are actually paying attention when they're watching the movie. It was, but some people were suggesting, like, my God, they bungled this when they were doing the restoration. Like somebody accidentally did this when they were, because you know that the copy of the film that I showed on TCM is great. It's the restored version of Detour, and it's beautiful, which I'm not sure was the best thing to do with that movie. I'll just throw that in there. I of course appreciate restoration. Detour, there's a grunge factor in Detour. It's like punk rock. You know, when you overproduce punk rock, you can kind of take the spirit out of it.
Yeah.
There's a little of that with Detour, right? So anyway, here's the story. To all those 20 people, I haven't answered any of them because I'm hoping that they're all watching this, so I can have one blanket answer for this. So the deal with that scene is that obviously they set it up by showing the United States, and that Al is hitchhiking from New York to Los Angeles. So he is going, I'm going to try to do this. He is going, I don't know when I look on screen here, if I'm left or right, I don't really know. So this is my right. So he is going from New York to Los Angeles. Did that look right to you? If I said he went from New York to Los Angeles?
Yes.
Or am I, okay. All right.
Well, but yes.
Okay, so here's the deal. So all movement of every shot during his sojourn across the United States, all the movement has to track in that direction.
Ah.
Right? Because otherwise you're violating basic physical principles of film,
Yeah.
right? Because he is going east to west. So he is moving in one consistent direction. When they got out on the road to shoot a scene of him hitchhiking, the light was a certain way that they had to shoot it that way because that was the only way they got the right light on Tom Neal. Okay. So they shot it for the light. And then they realized, shit, this goes the other direction. Right? The road, the cars are now going, instead of right to left, they're going left to right. So they said, screw it, nobody will notice. And of course, whatever it is, 75 years later, everybody notices. Because let's face it, in 1945, people weren't watching that closely.
Yeah.
They or if they were, they probably said, why is the car going the other way?
Yeah.
And then forgotten about it. But now it's like, holy cow, what were they thinking? And so what Ulmer did, because it was backwards, was he flipped the film. There is a right in the middle of that thing, he flips the film because he just had to do that to make it work.
Yeah.
To keep the motion going in one direction, he had to flip the film, but it meant the cars were on the wrong side of the road. And that he was hitchhiking on the wrong side of the road. So that is the explanation. Oh, well, Fur Queen just arrived.
That's Milo.
That's Milo, yeah. Milo, Charlotte and Milo.
Yeah.
Okay. Gee whiz. That's a hell of a coat.
Yeah, isn't he beautiful?
Yep.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe we'll get an appearance from Emily. We'll get a triple header. This is from Nell. And I love this question.
Okay.
I've been trying for weeks to turn this into a question, but all I can come with is an analogy. Horror is to heavy metal as NOIR is to punk rock. I know there are obvious nods here and there. The Clash went through a Humphrey Bogart period, and the Flesh Eaters' song "Life's a Dirty Rat" rips off a line that Cagney famously never said. But I'm hoping you guys can you can make some connections that are less literal.
Wow. So, okay, let me get this. Horror is to metal, heavy metal, as punk rock is to noir. That's the observation at work here.
Yes.
Okay. I can see that. I actually kind of get what Nell is suggesting here. I am not so much into heavy metal, but I liked my punk rock, so a few things that crack me up here is, so Nell references not just the Clash and their Humphrey Bogart phase. They also, I love their song, The Right Profile. It's all about Montgomery Clift and his accident that disfigured his face. That's pretty cool when a punk band does a song about Montgomery Clift is pretty good. But there is no question that the Clash was into film. So many bands are into the, movies and noir, specifically noir. We've kind of had a conversation about this. Tom Waits and his clear understanding and knowledge of noir. But Nell also referenced the Flesh Eaters in that, which is extraordinary. So I have to tell a story and give a shout out, because this comes close to home. So yeah, I was I've seen the Clash when they played in San Francisco. I've seen a lot of the punk bands of that time, including the Flesh Eaters. At the old Kabuki in Japantown in San Francisco when it was a music venue before Robert Redford turned it into a multiplex. And so when I did my very first film noir festival in Hollywood with the American Cinematheque, I was introduced to this fella, Chris Desjardins.
Yeah.
And he was the film shipper for the American Cinematheque. And we were sitting around the office and having these long conversations. And I kept looking at this guy and it's like, where do I know this guy from? How do I know this guy? I feel like I've seen this guy. And then I realized, you know, I should have asked Chris to take his shirt off and put on a pair of leather pants. And then I would have recognized him as the lead singer of the Flesh Eaters, as Chris D. And, you know, and it was just hysterical because Chris and I became very good friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we have remained good buddies for the last 20 years or so. And yes, I can tell you unequivocally that Chris is a total noir guy. He's also a horror guy as well. But his music is very much inspired by a lot of noir. He's also a really good novelist. And you know, he always gave me his manuscripts to read. I blurbed his books, and his influences are, you know, James M. Cain, but not the obvious stuff. Like he wrote like a Western noir that was clearly inspired by this book James M. Cain wrote called Past All Dishonor. You know, that isn't the normal stuff that people know about James M. Cain. And Chris also made a movie that I liked, a horror movie I like called I Passed for Human. That's actually a movie about drug addiction, but it's masquerading as a vampire movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I get that. And I do think that a lot of, and you know, Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedys has come to every Noir City festival in San Francisco. He's a huge film fan and is a donor to the Film Noir Foundation, an incredibly loyal and dedicated donor to the Film Noir Foundation. So, yeah, and there are members of the old punk band, the Avengers, who come to the festival all the time. So yeah, I definitely see the punk connection to noir. I've talked about it enough because I went into a personal story, but I do see kind of the thematically, you know, the crush and the there's something about metal that is too much, whereas the punk thing is minimalist and like very class oriented and driven very much in the spirit of these noir characters, I think. So I see a connection. I see what Nell is going for there. I'm not articulating it particularly well, but it's a very, very interesting observation.
Yeah, and I think, sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say, and I think like the band X has a lot of songs that are very, very noir.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so this is from Michael Old Johnson, Eddie and Ann. This is kind of a three-parter. Discovered 1952s without warning. One aspect I found interesting was how the police relied on modern CSI type forensics in its investigation. The only other noir this early that I could think of, they used science to solve a crime, was 1950s Mystery Street and 1948's He Walked by Night. Can you think of any others?
Yeah, the earliest one is the Kid Glove Killer.
Oh, yeah.
From 1942, with Van Heflin as a police forensic scientist, and the great Marcia Hunt. One of Fred Zinnemann's earliest movies. Yeah, the forensic science plays a big role in that movie. It kind of a goofy role in that movie. You know, there's this scene where they like vacuum the guy's head for fibers and stuff. It's kind of silly. But yeah, Kid Glove Killer leaps right out at me. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of any other ones, but that's the noir film that Kid Glove Killer is not really film noir. I mean, we showed it at the Castro when Marcia was there because Marcia was there. But I don't know if I would really classify that as a noir film. Okay, is there more to this?
There's more to this question. I was also struck by all the similarities between Without Warning and one of my favorite Kurosawa films, High and Low. Is it possible that you saw Without Warning? Are there any other American noirs that may have influenced Japanese cinema?
Well, I don't know specifically if Akira Kurosawa saw Without Warning. That I don't know. But I can tell you that there is absolutely no question that American films influenced Japanese cinema and vice versa. Were you at the Silent Film Festival when we showed Dragnet Girl? That early Ozo film. I mean, that film was so inspired by Warner Brothers movies, Warner Brothers gangster movies.
Yeah.
And they couldn't have made it more clear because I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of that movie takes place in boxing gymnasiums, and all of the boxing posters on the wall are American.
Yeah.
But they're not real fights.
Yeah.
They like are advertising, Jack Dempsey versus this, and all of this American iconography is throughout that movie, which was made in 1932 or 30. I mean, films were still silent in Japan longer than they were silent in America. So that was a bit later. I can't remember the actual year on Dragnet Girl. But that movie is clearly inspired by American films. Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of them. And then it's what I call the cross-pollination, because then you start seeing films like Stray Dog, which clearly was Kurosawa had seen his share of American crime movies.
Yeah.
Was making one of his own. And then later on, Stray Dog would be adapted in Hollywood as Madigan, by Don Siegel. But and Abe Polanski wrote the screenplay for that. And you just see a lot of that back and forth. I think there's a real cross-pollination between French cinema and American cinema and Japanese cinema and American cinema. I think those are the two most, well, obviously British, but it's almost more British TV has influenced America than the movies. But a lot of American Anglophiles who worship anything British. So anyway.
Okay. One more part. On a previous installment, Eddie mentioned how Robin Montgomery's directorial experiment, Lady in the Lake, where the camera shows only what Marlowe sees, doesn't work that well. What does Eddie think about another film noir experiment, 1952's A Thief, directed by Russell Rouse and starring Ray Milland, which has no dialogue?
I like it. I like The Thief. I like it better than Lady in the Lake, because I think that I think that with Lady in the Lake, Montgomery deciding to do everything from the subjective camera viewpoint hinders his cinematic vocabulary, if you will.
Yeah.
He's putting himself in a straitjacket with this decision. Not so with Thief, because it's just there's no dialogue, but it forces Russell Rouse to be so creative as a director to get his point across that it's very creative, and it also works thematically because the movie, I don't know how many people have seen this, but the movie is about a spy. Ray Milland plays a communist spy, in Washington, and the paranoia of his existence, that he's going to blow his cover, that he's going to be found out, that he doesn't know who he can trust. All these are things that are very, very noir and are only enhanced by the fact that there's no dialogue. It actually helps push the theme along. I don't see how the subjective camera in The Lady in the Lake actually helps move the story along. It's a very clunky conceit trying to emulate the first person style of detective novels, and it's unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary, as a million other detective stories have proven. You don't have to follow in the detective's footsteps. You just track them. It's not a concrete thing. But I really liked The Thief, and I showed it in Hollywood years ago, and the composer, Herschel Burke Gilbert, came out and spoke about working with Russell Rouse and how proud he was of that film.
Yeah.
Because his score is really, really good. And what composer wouldn't love to have a director say, there's no talking that's going to get in the way of your music?
Okay, so this next one is from Nico Ferraro. What happened to the movie about Gloria Graham starring Annette Bening? Then the name of the movie is?
Oh, the name of the movie is Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And what happened to it, I'll just say flat out, what happened to it is that Sony botched the whole release and distribution of that film. Sorry, Sony, if you're listening to this, you guys did that film a huge disservice.
Yeah.
Because Paul McGuigan wrote and directed that, and it's a really, really good film. I liked it very, very much. Like I said earlier, I'm attracted to movies that are told in very interesting ways, and that film is really fantastic in the way he stages and directs the whole film. And Annette Bening is terrific in that part. And I really like that movie. That movie actually made me cry, and not just because I'm a Gloria Graham fan. If it was about a fictitious actress, I probably would have had the same emotional reaction to the film. But Sony botched it, and the reason they botched it, and I don't normally say stuff like this, but I will in this case, is that the business is so obsessed with awards and self-congratulatory bullshit that when the Golden Globes didn't nominate Annette Bening for a Best Actress Golden Globe, they didn't know how to sell the movie. They just gave up. Oh, she didn't get nominated. Now what do we do? And that was a complete disservice to a really, really strong film. So I suggest everybody who hasn't seen the movie, Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, check it out. It's very, very well done. And yeah, I was very disappointed at how poorly that movie did. And it was entirely because of the studio just dropping it.
Huh.
Anyway, Annette was nice enough to do a thing with me on TCM to about Gloria Graham. And we had a really lovely conversation and all that. And it was great, but I was very disheartened to see the studio bungle it so badly.
Okay, this is from Barbara. what was the film that got you interested in noir? For me, it was Scarlet Street, which I saw on TV when I was 15 or 16.
That's a good one. That'd do it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to stick with my story, right? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey,
And I've said, was that a I need to be fed
no,
grab?
She's just very upset that Milo is on me right now.
Milo is on your lap. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's too bad. They need to just get along. Can't we just get along? Anyway,
sorry.
I forget where I was now. That was all about
sorry. What was the film that got you interested in noir?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's Thieves Highway is the one that I always cite as my entree into noir. So I'm sticking with that. I mean, obviously it's a cumulative thing. It's not one movie, but when I thought about how I absorbed most of this stuff, which was off TV, in my formative years, the movie that really stuck out was Thieves Highway, along with Deadline USA, but Deadline USA isn't as much of a noir as Thieves Highway. So I always cite Thieves Highway, but there's a lot of them. Yeah. The Big Heat. I remember watching The Big Heat and being just knocked out by that. Scarlet Street was another one that I saw at a very impressionable age, but it was Thieves Highway because it's set in San Francisco. It takes place overnight, which I love those movies that take place all over the course of one. I mean, the beginning of the film isn't one night, but once he arrives in San Francisco, it's all one night. And just the themes and the thrust of that movie really resonated with me and still do. So that's the one.
This is from Penelope. I see so many great films that at least partially take place on trains. Human Desire comes to mind. Do you know of other films where train travel is a big factor?
That's funny. It seems like we had this question at an earlier.
We had train questions before because we talked about the tall target.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if you're talking about noir, the Narrow Margin is the train movie, right? I should, and I think I said this before, I wrote a whole essay about train movies for the TCM Classic Film Festival, and they own that essay, and I would love to be able to reprint that essay or put it online or something.
Yeah.
My favorite train movie is The Train. The John Frankenheimer movie, The Train, with Burt Lancaster. I just love that movie because the train is such a character in the film. It's a stretch to imagine Burt Lancaster as a French resistance fighter in World War II, but they needed an actor who could stand up to a train.
Yeah.
And that's Burt Lancaster, right?
Yeah.
So I love that movie. And there's a lot of them. The Tall Target, like you said, is fantastic. And there are others. They're not all set on a train. I mean, that's the thing. It's like a movie set on the train as opposed to a movie that has a great train sequence.
Yeah.
Like, Wim Wenders' The American Friend has a great train sequence in it, but it's not a train movie. Like Murder on the Orient Express is a train movie.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. And my personal favorite is still The General.
Oh,
because I love me some Buster Keaton.
duly cited in my essay as I think I come down at the end with the general and the train.
Yeah.
And these are like the two greatest train movies of all time. And, you know, and in some respects, I would say that the general is the greatest train movie ever made because it's all about the train.
Yeah.
And Buster Keaton uses every single inch of that train he gets mileage out of, you know. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's complete genius. I don't consider the train, the Frankenheimer movie, genius. I just like the story, and I like the drama of it and the trying to rescue art and all of that stuff is all close to my heart. But I just, the genius of Buster Keaton is oh my God, the general is fantastic.
This is from Alan Rossi. Eddie, did you ever interview Elisha Cook Jr.? If you did, what was he like? Different from the movie characters he played on the screen? If you didn't meet him, Eddie, what would you have liked to have asked him or known about him? Wouldn't you, like me, just want to hang out with him for a single day?
I don't know about that last part, but no, I never did interview Elisha Cook, who is from San Francisco, by the way. So I'm sure that would have been the icebreaker. Oh, you're from San Francisco too, huh? Yeah, he was born in San Francisco in 1906. I never met him or anything, but the closest thing that, you know, this is all I got for Elisha Cook, is when I did meet Lawrence Tierney, we talked about Elisha Cook because they were good friends. And they would go they would go off in the mountains together to be away from people.
Yeah. And to drink, I assume.
And to drink and fish. I mean, that was basically it.
Yeah.
And the impression everyone who knew him has given me of Elisha Cook Jr. is that he was a very private guy who liked to be off by himself, fishing, doing whatever he liked to do on his own. And he would come in and punch the clock and perform the Elisha Cook thing. He would do the Elisha Cook thing, which was his livelihood. And then he would leave and just go and be off by himself. I mean, that was basically it. I mean, that guy made a career out of being a weasel on screen, like Percy Helton and to a lesser extent Whit Pistol. And it's kind of fascinating to realize that was their livelihood.
Yeah.
To be that character.
Yeah.
You know, so all I have to say to what was the name of the person who asked this question?
Alan.
All I can say, Alan, is if you have not seen the Elisha Cook episode of Johnny Staccato, Solomon is the title of the episode. You should track that down because that is John Cassavetes giving Elisha Cook the most unexpected role of his entire career, where he basically is playing like an F. Lee Bailey attorney, bigger than life, broad, aggressive, arrogant character, totally unlike anything he'd ever performed. And I love John Cassavetes for that. It's like, I'm gonna give you 30 minutes of screen time that you've never gotten from anybody else. And it's fantastic.
Okay, this is Vinny from Astoria, New York. I love the film Pushover with Kim Novak and Fred MacMurray. To me, it's one of the most underrated noirs. I would love for it to be on Blu-ray one day. I know people will disagree, but I like Pushover just as much, or maybe even a little more than Double Indemnity. People knock Fred MacMurray, but I think he's a great noir. Would you say that MacMurray is a great film noir actor and that Pushover is Pushover is underrated?
Okay, Vinny, that's a lot of questions. That's a lot of questions, Vinny. Okay, I love Pushover. It is, I guess it's underrated. I don't know if it's underrated as much as it's underseen.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody who sees Pushover underrates it.
Yeah.
I mean, once you see the movie, you realize, fuck, this is really good.
Yeah.
Richard Quine was a really, really great director, perhaps an underrated director.
Huh.
And the script is really good. Performances are all great. I think Fred MacMurray is a tremendous actor. I just think that the thing with Fred MacMurray, this is kind of interesting. The thing with Fred MacMurray is that so many, dare I say, cinephiles got into these older films where Fred MacMurray was in his prime after they'd seen him on My Three Sons, right? And after they'd seen him in those Disney movies, you know, the Flubber movies and all that.
Yeah.
So they thought, like, this guy can't be a noir leading man. But I guarantee you that people older than us who had seen Fred MacMurray in Hollywood movies before he did Double Indemnity had no problem believing him in these roles. You know, because he was considered lightweight, but it wasn't the lightweight you get from playing a dad on a TV sitcom for many years. Then you're tagged as a cultural icon. Fred MacMurray was not a cultural icon before he made Double Indemnity, so it was not that big a stretch. And you know, he's really, really good. Have you ever seen Fred MacMurray give a bad performance? Or
no? I've liked him in everything, single thing. And I grew up watching reruns of My Three Sons, and that did not affect my appreciation of him in Double Indemnity.
No,
probably made me.
He's really good, and I think that you know, Kim is really good in. Listen to me calling her by her first name, Kim. Kim is, you know, I have met her. I'm going to at least say that. I get to say that. She's really good in that film. That's her debut film. And Dorothy Malone and Phil Carey. Yeah, everything about that movie is terrific. And I'm going to say that, you know, that film is not hidden because it was part of the Sony Columbia Noir sets that came out years ago, and I'm not positive it's gotten a Blu-ray release, but if it hasn't, I can all but guarantee you that it will. There is absolutely no reason for that film to be obscure.
Yeah, it plays on TCM quite a bit too.
Yeah. I've shown it on Noir Alley at least once. It's great.
This is from Dan. I just saw a Christmas movie called Remember the Night. Love that movie. It starred Fred MacMurray and Barbara Stanwyck, both who later starred in Double Indemnity. I thought they worked very well together in this Christmas movie, and the performances probably led them to be cast together in Double Indemnity. I was wondering if you knew in any other actors and actresses paired together in noir features who worked together in other type of movies. Before you answer that, Fred MacMurray and Barbara Stanwyck actually did 4 films together.
Yeah.
And I just, have not seen The Moonlighter yet. So that's on my list of things to see. But the film that the two of them did with Douglas Sirk.
Yeah, it's fantastic. There's Always Tomorrow. Yeah.
Always Tomorrow is one of my all-time favorite movies. That film is one of the best love stories I've ever seen. It just kills me. And once it's written, because it's a Sirk film, children suck. Sirk films always suck. Now you can actually answer.
I'm with you. That is a really, really good movie. It's not noir by any stretch, but it's kind of, you know, it's a dark melodrama, you know. And they're great in it. And yeah, Remember the Night is fantastic.
Yeah.
I recall I did show that as a Christmas film at Noir
Yes, you
City
did.
one time, because what's interesting about that movie, and one of the things I love about it, is it really has a downbeat ending. I mean, it's this amazing love story, and then it's like, are you serious? This is how the movie's going to end? Oh my God. Yeah, that's something. But and then yeah, the Moonlighter is it's interesting. Roy Rowland directed it. It's a Niven Bush. It's a Western.
Yeah.
And Fred McMurray plays a cattle rustler.
Yeah.
In the film, and I don't know if he's perfect for Westerns. I'll say that, right? But that's like seeing Ray Milland in a Western or something. Yeah. It's like I don't know if I'm buying this, but it's Hollywood. It's like 1951 or something, and and Stanwyck is in it, for Christ's sake. I mean, you can't go wrong. As for the other part of that question, other teams, I don't know that there are a lot of noir teams. I mean, there's Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake, and basically everything they did together was kind of similar. It was, there are movies they made together that are less noir that have not really been released, like Saigon and stuff like that. But I have a hard time thinking of who the other pairings are. I can think of like Mitchum and Jane Russell.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think they made anything together that wasn't considered kind of noir. No. There's obviously, Glenn Ford and Rita Hayworth.
Yeah.
And Glenn Ford and Gloria Graham in The Big Heat and Human Desire. But that's like two movies. That's not like that's not a team. That's not William Powell and Myrna Loy,
Yeah.
So I don't really have a quick, facile answer for that question, but I'm going to think about it. I'm sure there are people watching this who I'll check the feed. The comments feed, and see what other people have to add, because I just can't think of any at the moment. Oh. I mean, there are combos that I wish had happened in noir, like Robert Mitchum and Ava Gardner, who were together but not in a noir film. But man, I wish they were.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I got.
Okay.
Got to push Charlotte out of the way.
I just really don't. Okay, he managed to jump off me without clawing me at the same time. So
have you fed them? Have you fed them, Anne?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Charlotte is insanely jealous. Like, anyone who walks in this apartment, she's nasty to. Our mutual friend Ted and her have an ongoing conflict.
Wow. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. My cats have all been lovers. They just they can't wait for people to come in. So they're, oh well. Anyway.
No, Charlotte is seriously the worst cat I have ever owned. She's like borderline sociopathic. And she loves me more than anything in the world.
Oh, that's good. Better than having her hate you.
Good point. Are there any film noirs that take place around Christmas or have a Christmas New Year's theme? If so, what films are they?
Yes. The answer is yes. There are a great number of them. And we've shown them all at Noir City Christmas in San Francisco. And off the top of my head, I can't remember them all. But, Christmas Holiday, Lady on a Train, The Reckless Moment, which is a fabulous movie and takes place over Christmas.
God, I love that movie.
There's a picture called Christmas Eve with George Raft that was re-released as what, Sinner's Holiday or something like that. Not a particularly good film, but Randolph Scott is in it, so
Yeah.
that's it has that going for it. Blast of Silence is a Christmas noir film.
Which answers Wade's question.
Oh,
Because
did
Wade asked, is Blast of Silence a Christmas movie?
Hell yeah.
So yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blast of Silence is the great anti-holiday Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Like if you hate Christmas, I highly recommend putting on Blast of Silence and satisfying your inner Grinch by watching Blast of Silence as a Christmas movie. And I just showed the other day, I showed Kiss of Death on TCM as a Christmas movie. I mean, the heist takes place on Christmas Eve, then it goes on from there. So that was my excuse.
Oh, what's the one with Peter Cushing that's
Cash on Demand.
Cash on Demand. Which is, it's kind of like a take on A Christmas Carol.
Exactly.
That
that may be my new favorite Christmas movie, Cash on Demand. I love that film.
Yeah.
And Lady in the Lake, which we talked about earlier, is somehow in Robert Montgomery's scheme of things, he decided to turn that into a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of these. Look, I don't know how many. Oh, you know what's a great Christmas movie? La Otra.
Yeah, I really dug that.
Yeah, which is the last one that I showed at the Castro before the pandemic.
Yeah.
The Other, Roberto Gavilon film from Mexico with Dolores Del Rio. That is extraordinary. I love that movie. So if you haven't seen that and you're interested in a Christmas noir, see if you can find that, because that is spectacular.
Okay. This one's from Catherine. I know that.
Wait, one more that I love, that for years I wanted to show at Noir City, and there was no restored 35 millimeter print of the film, but you can now see it restored digitally, is The Silent Partner, the film with Elliot Gould and Christopher Plummer,
which I have not watched yet, which I need to see, because fabulous Christmas movie. For if you're a noir head, it's like you want the villain to be in a Santa Claus costume, and it's kind of that kind of goes to Nell's thing about heavy metal versus punk rock. Like a heavy metal Christmas movie is like Black Christmas, or where Santa is like slaughtering people. Santa's a serial killer. Yeah.
Silent Partner, Santa is a really, really slick bank robbing thief.
Yeah.
Played by Christopher Plummer, who is also a psycho, but it's not like right up front. So it's played in a different key. Like there's Black Christmas and then there's The Silent Partner. And Black Christmas is heavy metal and The Silent Partner is kind of punk rock.
Yeah, and another thing that we showed at North City Christmas, and you're going to have to tell me the title because I'm blanking, but the one with Glenn Ford and Evelyn Keyes.
Mr. Soft Touch.
I really liked that movie, like a lot.
It's a weird film, and it just showed up on TCM.
Yeah, I saw that.
Recently, they were showing that, and that's a weird movie. Two directors. It is such a bifurcated thing tonally. Yeah. It's like part comedy, part noir, and it's like they have different directors directing the different sections of the film. Henry Levin directs like the light stuff, and Gordon Douglas directs the heavier stuff. It's very unusual movie, but I like it. I'm with you.
Yeah.
There's something in that, and it's set in San Francisco too, which is another reason I love it.
Yeah, even though it's not really noir, but Val Lewton's The Curse of the Cat People is, yeah, it's an incredible film, and it's also an incredible film about childhood imagination. It's a beautiful film, so I would recommend that for
which I also I'm trying to think of what I showed it with, but I definitely showed that as a Christmas film at the NOIR City Christmas show in San Francisco. I agree with you completely, Anne. That movie is actually probably my favorite of that whole thing, that whole Val Lewton series at RKO. It's not a horror film. You know,
yeah.
they
No,
sold
it's
it.
not. Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah.
But it's one of the best movies about, well, you know, I don't want to get off track here, but there are a lot of movies, people who are into noir tend to hate movies about kids.
Yeah.
Every time I show a movie like Shadow on the Wall or Talk About a Stranger or something that's based around a kid, people write to me and say, don't ever do that again. Don't ever show that again. Yeah. But there are a lot of really great movies like The Window, these two movies I just talked about, Talk About a Stranger, Shadow on the Wall. Night of the Hunter is kind of a kid's movie.
Well, it's really from the boy's perspective.
It's like a noir fairy tale, you know. Yeah. I mean, Robert Mitchum is the big bad wolf, and you know, and Lillian Gish is the savior of these kids, and you know, Curse of the Cat People is in that group for me as well. It's like a great noir movie about childhood, and you don't there aren't too many of them. And so I'm glad you brought that one up, because I think that's a really overlooked movie and one of the great Robert Wise movies. You know, he came in and took over the direction of that film, and it's an amazing movie, really.
I know. I just always have to plug Val Lewton. This is from Catherine. I know that Nora Prentice was produced under the production code. How did the dresses Ann Sheridan wear during her nightclub act get past the censors? I've looked all over the internet for an answer, but can't find a thing.
If you haven't seen Nora Prentice, I feel sorry for you.
I love that one.
Fantastic movie, and Ann Sheridan is tremendous, and she is a total knockout in that film. Yes, and the wardrobe is eye-opening. Yeah. The answer to that question is also applies to the wardrobe that Kim Novak wore in Pushover.
Okay, she needed a bra. I was going to say it before, but
yeah, well, but well, she may have needed a bra. I've told you this story, right, about when I interviewed Kim a couple of times. I interviewed Kim. Were you at the show we did at the Castro that Mark Eustace put on when we showed Vertigo? And
no, actually, I was not.
Kim with Vertigo. Okay, so I asked Kim because Pushover was her first film, and I said, I got to ask you this. I hope you don't think it's rude or impolite or something. But you know, your debut film, you make quite an impression because you go back to Fred McMurray's apartment, and when you take off your coat, it is obvious you are not wearing a bra. And I kind of held my breath when I said this. Like if I had said this to, I don't know, Rhonda Fleming or somebody, it might have gotten an embarrassed response, or like, why are you being, you know, that's not gallant of you. And Kim just looked at me and said, honey, I never wore a bra. so
well, now every time I see her in something, I'm going to be zeroing in.
She claimed that she was like the original liberated woman in that regard. Yeah. She never wore a bra in any movie that she ever made. Huh. So neither did Susan Hayward. I want you
Yeah.
to know. But anyway, the answer to that question is the production code did its work on costume design based on the designs submitted to the production code office. So they would take the designer's drawings and they would submit them to the production code. And let's face it, the production code office was filled with really unimaginative people. So they would look at things and say, yeah, well, it looks like everything's covered up.
Yeah.
And they could, you know, if the bodice was high enough or it had a collar or something, they would say, yeah, okay, fine, that passes. Yeah. And it never occurred to them that you could make that dress out of something really form-fitting and very sheer. And it was as if you might as well be naked.
Yeah.
Right. And several of those things got right past them.
Yeah.
You know, so I give 2 thumbs up.
Okay. So on that note, we should probably wrap up because we went really long. But we will be back next week at 7 p.m. again. So Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll answer the rest of our questions. We have a lot of questions, so
okay, all right.
We'll see. So hopefully next week will be a little shorter. But anyway, thank you everyone for sending in questions. If you would like your questions answered in the future, just go to filmnoirfoundation.org and you can just sign up on our email list. And then once a month in our newsletter, that's when we solicit the questions from our email subscribers. So that's how you get your questions answered. And if you miss any of these live, you can also, we have a YouTube channel, NOIR City SF, and all our stuff is on there, but also a lot of interviews that we've done over the years with different people, you know, from Stage with Castro and other things are up there too. So there's a lot of great content in there. Okay, I'm done pitching.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks so much, Ann. And I look forward to taking on the rest of these questions, the both of us. And I'm glad that Charlotte and Milo are relatively well behaved now.
Milo ran away and Charlotte's on the couch.
Oh, okay, very good, very good. So we will join everybody back here very, very soon. Thanks for hanging in with us, and again, thanks for all the great questions. This is really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really is. I'm enjoying it. Okay, see you next week.
So we'll see you very soon.